Welcome back. Still here at Washington-Holmes Technical Center, here with Sandy Aycock with the Pharmacy Tech program. Stick around, we're going to be visiting more of Washington-Holmes Technical Center over time. You're watching Real Florida Magazine, and we will be right back. Welcome back. Still here at Washington-Holmes Technical Center in a classroom now, so we're talking a little bit more quietly. Here with Sandy Aycock with the Pharmacy Tech program. Sandy, as we have been talking sort of pre-show, this program I think doesn't get quite the spotlight in some cases as some of the other more prolific programs. But as you were pointing out, you've got a high placement rate and you've got a lot of people going through this program. Let's start at the beginning. We're in the Pharmacy Tech program here at Washington-Holmes Technical Center. How long has this program been offered here at WHTC?
We started in January 2011. We are currently in our third class. Have a very good placement rate, probably 80 to 90% placement total for the three classes. This class still has about 300 hours left, and I'm at 50% placement already with part-time.
Wow. Well, going back to the beginning of what you were saying, that sort of explains you've only been around a couple of years,
yes.
So that's there's no mystery why it's not as widely known as it could be or should be. And as you point out, again, prior to the show, you pointed out that you've got graduates in almost every pharmacy in the general area. What is the need for pharmacy tech? Is it a growth industry? Is it one that you're finding that there's just a cry out for additional techs out there? What is that industry looking like right now?
Well, all healthcare industry is on the rise right now. In pharmacy especially, there's more pressure being put on the pharmacists. Most pharmacies now fill 500 to 600 prescriptions daily, so they need more help. The reason we started the program is that Florida changed their law in the last couple of years. Used to, you could walk into a pharmacy, hire on, and begin to work. You can't do that any longer. The state of Florida requires that you're registered. And the only way to register is to take a program. And after you get your certification, you can send it in. At that point, you can also certify, which will benefit you. The state does not require certification, but it benefits you. Some places will pay up to $3 to $5 more per hour for a certified tech versus a registered tech.
Yeah, definitely worthwhile.
Yes.
And obviously, the nature of the job, you're dealing with narcotics, with pharmaceuticals, yes. Many of them Class 3 pharmaceuticals, which obviously federally regulated. Talk a little bit about the scope of the drugs, the products that you're dealing with as a pharmacy tech that do make it such a sensitive issue.
You do. There are many drugs that are controlled drugs now. We manage pain, we manage anxiety, and most of those drugs are scheduled drugs. And so there is a need for a pharmacist to have the training. Also, a lot of times the pharmacist doesn't see the prescription until it's finished. So you have to have a tech that is trained to greet the customer, talk to the customer, make sure they know their allergies, make sure they know their medical history. And then he has to trust that tech to input that information. Because when they're putting in a new prescription, the pharmacist isn't going to know if they have the allergy. They're not going to know if there's a drug interaction. He's going to depend on his tech to do that. Because the pharmacist, 9 times out of 10, is just going to see the final product. He's going to check. He's not going to know the history that the prescription went through to get to that point. So it's very critical that a pharmacy tech have this sufficient training.
And I'm so glad you bring that aspect up. Many times a patient will go to multiple doctors.
Yes.
They're being treated for multiple things sometimes, and there are contraindications. Sometimes they're not caught even by the doctors or their nursing staff. And there are a never-ending number of stories about that pharmacy tech or the pharmacist who do catch it, who say, Mr. Jones, you've been taking this other heart medication. This other medication is not such a good idea. Give us the name of your doctor so we can find out what. So really, you're providing a very valuable health service above and beyond the scope of what really the job entails.
Right, we do. Pharmacists themselves now have to do more than they did 20, 30 years ago. They have more demands on them. So now the pharmacy tech is doing the job that the pharmacist used to do 20 years ago. Now it relies on the pharmacy tech. So it's critical that the pharmacy tech have the proper training for that reason.
You know, and then just like going to a doctor's office, sometimes there'll be one physician, but there'll be a whole bunch of PAs,
Right.
And so they're able to put out more work at a lower cost, you hope. And obviously, with the aging of America, we're living longer than we did 30,
Right.
40, 50 years ago. Wasn't that many years ago that a 50, 60-year-old person was considered elderly?
Right.
And now that's not the case. So we've got more people and obviously more health services. So in that industry, we're seeing more and more assistance, for lack of a better term. So is that what a pharmacy tech basically is? Then they still work under the direction and supervision of a pharmacist, but they basically perform a lot of the duties, which allows them to do more of that bulk of work. Would that be accurate?
That would be accurate. The pharmacy tech does work under the pharmacist's license, but more and more states are requiring that the pharmacy tech now have their own license. And even in some states, if something goes wrong and there is a legal issue, the pharmacy tech can be held responsible also, as well as the pharmacist.
So are we seeing pharmacy techs having to actually have their own malpractice insurance in some cases?
Not in the state of Florida yet, but eventually I could see that happening.
And, certainly another thing to make a potential pharmacy tech wonder, is this a field that I need to get into, or is there too much responsibility here? Talk a little bit about the program, Sandy. Now, what is the duration of a pharmacy tech program here at the Tech Center?
The pharmacy tech program is 1,050 hours. We start with a 90-hour basic health core, which all our health programs do. And then we move into Pharmacy Tech 1, which revolves around community pharmacy, which is what would be in retail. I require 120 to 150 hours clinical hours, which allows the students at a certain point to go out and they work in the pharmacy. I have several contracts in Chipley, Bonifay, Graceville, and Vernon areas. So, we try to accommodate our students for the area they live in. Also have contract with Bay Medical for anyone who wants to do hospital clinicals. Working on a contract with Gulf Coast. And also working on a contract with a closed-door pharmacy called Omnicare in Panama City that does for nursing home. But after our community pharmacy, then we move into our hospital, where you would learn how to dispense the meds in an automated dispensing machine. And then our last course we take is sterile compounding, on which we have gotten a grant. We were working on a clean room where they learn how to pull drugs, mix the IVs in a sterile environment.
Is there a considerable amount of that happens? You think of a pharmacy, and like behind us here, all these jars of pills, and they simply count out 14 of them because they need one a day for the next 2 weeks. But how much is the pharmacist or the pharmacy tech actually mixing compounds and liquids or solids and actually preparing those?
There are 2 pharmacies locally that are called compounding pharmacies, or compounding pharmacies, and they strictly do a lot of compounding. My students do learn compounding. They have labs where they compound ointments, they compound elixirs, they compound suspensions, and so they pack pills, they repackage. So they do, learn all those things. That it opens the door to a little bit broader base for them in case they want to do the compounding. I've had one student who enjoyed the hospital. She is working in Bay Medical, and she is working in their IV room. The hospital requires a little bit more training once they get there, but she got some training here, enough that they were interested in her to hire her, and she is working in the IV room.
1,050 hours. How long calendar days does that actually take to do?
We start in August and we end in May. So basically, the school year.
Yeah. And how many people would you have typically in a normal or class? And I realize that you've only been going a couple of years now. We
usually range between 13 to 15. We try not to get over 15 so we can place them in a clinical setting easier. Our options are limited because our area is small, so we don't want to overflood the market either. So we range. We try not to go over 15.
Yeah, it makes total sense, and it's understandable. It's something I didn't think about, the sensitivity. You're doing this to be able to provide jobs for
Right.
people, but why produce 50 pharmacy techs when the area will only absorb
Right.
12 or 15 of them this year? Very, very good, and that shows a lot of insight into the school system
Right.
to look that far down the road. Well, thank you so much for your time. This is a very prolific program. We're going to be coming back here more often, I guarantee you, seeing more. I'd love to take the opportunity sometime to be able to shoot into your clean room, watch some of these
Sure.
other things going on. Thanks for what you do here. You're providing a service, an opportunity for education to allow people to get a decent paying job, and in even a relatively small rural area in which we find ourselves, you point out quite a few opportunities for these jobs.
Right.
Well, thank
So,
you again.
Thank you.
Here at Washington-Holmes Technical Center, now in the Pharmacy Tech program. Wow, pretty interesting stuff. It never ceases to amaze me. Every time we check one of these programs out, we certainly learn something more every time. So stick around. We're going to be visiting more of Washington-Holmes Technical Center over time. You're watching Real Florida Magazine, and we will be right back.